most especially the women who are almost left with a greater percentage of looking after the children. They're not at home. They're attending to their workplaces. They are paying specific attention to career development. Who in this case will be able to do this?
Yes, and also that's also a challenge to especially working women. How do you balance between your family to fulfill your family roles as a mother vis-a-vis your career, successes or your business successes? It's a challenge that as the economy is going on, is growing, and more women are getting into the public sector, either as business women, either as professional corporate women. There is that challenge, and I think it's something that the women policy makers, the women leaders should actually be paying attention to how to help these women. You asked a question to Honorable Cecily Ogwar concerning women who join parliament and their marriages are collapsing, and she answered, but also I think it's also another challenge that our society needs actually to address as early as possible, because the problem is not the women, neither is the problem the men, but where the problem is perception. Because when or at the earlier stages when we were growing up, when they were actually emphasizing women rights and women specific issues, the approach was that they would sieve out women and teach them about their rights, which was okay. That awareness sensitization was okay. But we forgot to bring on board the other counterparts who need to appreciate actually that men who have gone to school, and by the way of late we are getting feminists, men feminists who advocate for human women's rights even more than women. Yes. Actually what is happening, that the current trends from my observation is that actually women who are out there, those who have made a stride into the public sector, have actually turned against fellow women. It is men who have become advocates of women. The trends are very amazing. Yes. From my observation, some people say mukamoli, from a ventilator as I'm peeping as I do my political work. That is what I'm realizing. It's in the same respect that I would want to pick up Mrs. Jovent Obo's take. We're talking about career development. We're talking about this career talk, and the first point of contact should have actually been the family, but there seems to be not a lot of time for family to sit together and even get to identify that probably my child is very, very loving and respectful, and they would be able to be maybe a receptionist, or they would take on the nursing jobs. How do we address such challenges?
How do we address that? Mary started by saying that it is happening in some of the developed economies, and because of that I want to emphasize that can also happen in Uganda as long as there is will. One, we know developed economies like Germany, like China, their way of doing things is different. For example, for them they do not overemphasize academic achievement. They give basic education, and thereafter they take the young people to get practical skill, and within this practice the young people discover what they can be, and they keep doing on-job training and in service training, and finally they make it. So I think, and even within Uganda there is already that window. I remember during the launch of the Uganda State of the Population Report 2015, this beginning of this year, it came out. We have realized that we have this big population of young people, but which we are failing to make use of, and which is maybe a big bombshell to us. So, and Mr. Fajir Mandi and Professor Nwagaba were bringing it out. They were citing examples of what has happened in places like Germany, in places like China, and there is training. It is integrated within the educational system, with or without parents. Young people are trained in the areas where they can excel. So I think all we need is to win the political will and things will change. Of course, they will not be in one day, because even in those countries, they have not just happened in one day.
That's true.
There will be a change. So to me, I believe there is a change, whether women are now in the public arena and they have no much time at home. If there is that political will, even that political will will control the behavior of parents such that they have more time to their children, they have time to learn their children. And I want to say that even now when we are in the political arena, we are influencing our children, because we are the ones telling them, I want to see an engineer, I want to see a doctor. And the child works not to please himself, but please the parents.
Yes.
I have seen it especially with parents who missed an opportunity to become what they want. To become especially graduates. They have made money, they have property, but they have missed that in their lives. They push kids too much. They want their children to say, I'm studying from India, I'm studying from America. They push kids where they really wouldn't have wanted to be. And so if we have ability to divert them from their potentials, I think we also have the ability to make them, to align them with what they are capable of doing. So to me, the idea that parents are kind of more scattered, they don't have enough time with children, wouldn't affect us. We need that political will. We need to change not only the children, but also the parents and everybody around us, and that can help us to be better people in our professions.
And as we wind up, of course, we would want to forge a way forward, because unfortunately sometimes it seems more of remembering women issues when it comes to International Women's Day or women's events. That is when the women issues are outrightly spoken about. But as we go, what do you think are the turnaround points for women to achieve the parity and enjoy the same rights as the men have? And also, if you would, in your concluding remarks, talk about the issue of culture and women, because that seems to have also shaped the perception about women.
Yeah, indeed, the issue of culture, our cultural beliefs, our norms, our practices, which we have inherited from generation to generation, have affected us. That's why there is no law, for example, which said a girl shouldn't be a street vendor, a girl shouldn't be a tax conductor. But just think, as you sit in a taxi and you see this girl with a cape sitting there and saying those words the male conductors always say, you get a shock. Say, oh,
am I in the right place?
Is this the right girl? Am I in the right place? And this is because we have been formed. We have been formed by our cultures, by all our previous experiences. So if there is anything that we need to modify, is our cultural beliefs and norms. We need to know that, first of all, culture is socially constructed. It is not God-made and it can be changed. So we need to look at that and develop strategies to ensure that our culture
to meet with the current times.
Yes, to meet with the current times. In addition, we need also to address policy and policy generally, and also the laws that affect participation of both men and women. We need to work with the policy makers, we need to work with the lawmakers to ensure that the laws that are in place are favorable to all of us. They bring out the marginalized, they bring out those people that need specific help. So if we can afford to work in the legal area, and also especially as women activists and other activists, including these days people call them the female male child, like one lawyer I think should be aware of. We need to work hand in hand to monitor, to ensure that when these laws and policies are in place, are being implemented. Because sometimes, for example, Uganda is known to be very good as far as policy making is concerned. We have very good policies, we have very good laws, including our constitution, which is known to be one of the most gender sensitive constitutions, but the question is the implementation on the ground. So we need to be watchdogs, we need to monitor to ensure that all laws are aiming at gender parity, all laws are aiming at equality in terms of participation and benefit from the decision-making processes in our country. And the moment we are able to monitor the implementation of these laws and policies, then we'll see a difference.
Finally, as I go to Miss Mary Mutesi, in your concluding remarks, of course, I know you would want to talk about culture, cultural issues, but also Mrs. Obo did trickle my mind back to one specific issue when she talked about laws, and that brought me to the petition that is before the Supreme Court, and women activists have come out to say most of these teams, away from the justices who are 4 of the 9, but most of these teams, apart from, I think, the team representing the third respondent, the Attorney General, which has one lady, ladies have not been represented, and the questions are, what does this denote or not to?
Now, when it comes to that, when you speak about issues of representation in court and choice of a legal team, I think the challenge is that as women practitioners in private practice, we should up our game also, because you'll not drive a client to include you on the lineup for representation just because you're a woman. Actually, sometimes I get tempted to tell people that in the current society, if you want to throw around your womanhood and your youthfulness, and you think you're going to be favored just because you're a youth, because of age, you have to mix it with quality and ability, so that on top of being a woman, you're trusted that you can deliver. And I think that is what we should be talking. But also, as I conclude, I wanted to say that as women, we've not exploited the multiplier effect of affirmative action. And I think it's very important, because sometimes you think and say, yes, we clamored for representation out there. We clamored for women who should be leaders in particular institutions. But the question is, when they are leaders, are the women who are working, for example, with KCCA, finding it more favorable and more different when a man is leading? Because the challenge is, as we get our fellow women out there, they've opted also male artillery and male tools to fight fellow women. So the challenge is, when we have an institution where a woman is a leader, can we get testimonies and witnesses in that institution that actually that particular woman is paying attention to women specific issues? Or is the game continuing as usual? So that we can use that multiplier effect of having more women in these places, and therefore women specific issues being attended to more than, because even when you go into the healthy sector that we talked about, you find that actually many women would love to deliver at the hands of a male midwife,
that's very true,
you know, than a female. Why is that? So are we utilizing the multiplier effect of those who are there to actually continue advancing the women cause more than, so that at a certain time we can reach the parity that we are talking about?
I hear that out, and of course today's International Women's Day. Mrs. Obo would like to make her final remarks, I think, as something you want to add to her submission.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to conclude by saying that much as we are still below the line, I would say we have not yet really gone even halfway as far as empowering women to participate and benefit from the decision-making processes is concerned. But there is evidence that we have moved. We have seen some achievements. For example, at the, let me say, at the time of the 1985 women's meeting, we didn't even have women NGOs, women rights NGOs in Uganda. There was only one women's council, which was basically something put there by the ruling government by then. For example, if you remember, at the time of the 1985 Nairobi women's meeting, Uganda was represented by a team which was basically selected from the women's circles, and it was led by the wife of the then president, that was Mama Mary Obote. Obviously, when she went for that meeting, she never came back, because that is when a coup took place, when she was still in Nairobi. So but now when we look at what has happened since then, there have been women NGOs. Within these NGOs, women have had a chance within themselves to practice leadership and know that they can make it. They know that even their organizations can make it better than those which are male-led. And we have also women come up in different areas of life, especially in politics. When we consider the number of women who were in direct politics at the time, the number was almost invisible at the time. And we have so many more, including those who have come there under affirmative action and those who have come on individual merit. So I think we are making it. And even in the grassroots, women are no longer concentrating in the domestic arena. They are in so many other places, and they are visible. And what they are doing can be seen and can be respected. So to me, we are making it. There is at least, whether our line graph is a bit, it has a weak, not really static. The slope is not so sharp, but there is some kind of progression, and I believe we'll make it. We'll make it. Even one day we'll talk of a woman president, not a female president. Yes. All right. I want to thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for sparing your time to be with us on a special Women's Day like this. Thank you very much, Mary. And of course, lots of women issues that we can always talk about. It's International Women's Day, and all we want to say is wish you a happy Women's Day. And the celebrations will be at Kololo under the theme Gender Parity, a pledge for women to enjoy the same opportunity and rights as the men. My name is Mildred Tuhaise. Up next will be NBS Extra with Mr. Tamale Mirundi. It's a Women's Day. We will be seeing who the presenter will be. But well, enjoy your stay on NBS television. Please stay with us.
Always. Wanna make some cash? Just dial *185#. Pay your bills.